It's a little bit different for them now.
Good shots as they continue to kind of adapt as the game does go on. They're trying to go ahead and do the sneaky plays instead of it happening to them. They got some good damage, but it's not going to be a ton. It's not a good confidence boost. So now they got to make that conscientious decision with how contested this side of the map was in game one. Do we stay here? Do we try to hold them? Or do we move on out? Just jump on over to one of our hotspot POIs for this group, Crime City, and you're seeing they're fighting directly inside of that bunker, and they just don't want to let one team kind of just dominate it and get it for free without at least a little bit of risk.
Yeah, definitely worth the fight, but for King Beast here, his kind of situation here, they could use a ton of material count. They got to find a way out now. That's the one problem with getting into this vault here. You do find yourself potentially held out. For Chris's team on the other side, see how it's looking for them. Not too bad here. They definitely have the slight advantage, I'd say. The material count here. How do you think this is going to play out?
I think this is almost like a no-win situation, because even if they're able to make their way in, Chris, Wager, and Danger, it's just going to come at such a high risk. Another third-party team, you see them at the bottom of the map, just a little bit out of the distance. But if they hear this and they see this as an opportunity to sneak, we've saw it not only group 2, we saw it in group 1 as well. That's how a lot of players were getting caught off guard. So I do like their decision to kind of disengage, give it up. There's no way they can fight it for free. And with the little resources and materials that they have, I do think it's a better decision to at least try and farm up.
Acorn Agers and Boyo on the move right now. Once again, playing at Mass Meadows, one of the early rotates here. We saw them having somewhat of a surge problem, right, in the mid game. So it seemed like they had their early game on lock, but I do wonder if it was due to a lack of playing aggressive in their early situations. We'll have to see here. This game's going a lot slower, though, Jacob, than the previous.
Yeah, I think with one game down, it's almost that opposite effect of some of our groups that we saw, where it was kind of very, very slow in game one, players filling each other out. Now it kind of went the other way. You got to imagine some players maybe have lost fights in game one that they didn't necessarily think they would, so they're taking just a much slower approach. And what you're seeing here out of Acorn, Agers, and Pollo, they quickly looted up their Mass Meadows, got all their loot, they got the deal bits, now they're kind of farming up, and they're going to have an abundance due to that gold, so they're going to throw a lot of extra big pots, maybe some splashes towards the top of that surge tower, and just kind of sit up there and let every team that's rotating by be possible targets for their collection of surge.
Gotta keep tagging. Let's take a look, though. Jump into another area here for Diego plays his trio. Saw the mistakes on the previous game, making that one poor decision to try to get a pickup inside the storm, cost them everything. They won't be looking to do anything like that this time around. Looking at the feed, though, Curly's trio picking up Bull Cut Tyler over by the Whiffy Wharf, so a lot developing now. It's inevitable, right, given the pacing of the game here, but Diego's team rotating right into a full trio here. This trio looking to size them up, potentially take the fight here as they get the first tags onto Ralphie. An early med miss. Not sure if that's to try to bait them in or not, but another fight here, Jacob, with Logan being the first to fall here.
Another elimination. Dom's down as well. That's second for Clixie. But more and more teams rotating through Seaport City. So it's great that they're able to get the eliminations, but you're seeing 28 builds on Clixie alone. A huge lack of resources, 6 on Drewbot. So for them, staying in this position as long as they have been so far, yeah, maybe their surge is good, but what about everything else to kind of complete the game? Kind of putting themselves in a position where they have to kind of stagger themselves back, farm up, or maybe even fight again to try to get elimination, just like some of our other teams do, and that's how they collect their resources. As Phenom, Eulogy, they're going to get that revive onto Yusuf. Nobody feeling confident enough, even after collecting the down, to try to push over and get the elimination.
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing's for certain, Seaport City is just dangerous at this time of the game. More teams opting to rotate north and closer to the Seaport City here. This is just becoming a very much of a hot spot for action right now.
Thought I saw it for a moment. Might have been the black market team of Agers, Acorn. and Poyo trying to get their surge in that direction, but a lot of the teams landing towards the north, they got an early rotation to make. Luckily for them, it is not as drastic as some of the other games we've seen. You know, if I had to predict and make an early guess on this zone, it's going to kind of set her up. So I would be very, very careful late in the game if it does continue to move towards those mountains, because yesterday, if it showed us anything, if you're not prepared for the elevation changes as drastic as they can be, you're going to expend a lot of mats and find yourself in a worse off situation.
Yeah, you definitely can't do that too early in the game. You find yourself set back, held out, but talk about teams moving towards the seaport. Boyo, Acorn, and Agers are that southernmost team. I was curious as to what trios it were, but that question's now been answered in full for us here. Beneath them, you have Seek, Veer, and Dash there. Very notable trio as well. Look at this. Acorn's loadout really not looking like the best here at the moment. Nice little exchanges there.
I could see them maybe rotating back towards the black market after this, because they do have that armored vehicle as well, so they don't have to necessarily travel on foot if it is still going to be there. This Ager's just a little bit too close down below for my own comfort. Taking that 1v3, still landing a good shot. Reet, Curly, Coop still over towards Flooded Frogs. You saw in the feed that Curly was able to get multiple eliminations, and they've gotten 2 more since then. And so when it comes to Storm Surge, they're adapting on the fly from game 1 to game 2, realizing that Storm Surge can really dictate not just yours, but a lot of other teams nearby.
Yeah, they're in an excellent spot, all right? And they have the Medness here as well to go ahead and cap off, so a lot of time to work with. This is going to allow them to do something really big here for the mid game, which is play dead side, really just avoid other teams, and we'll surely be seeing them into another end game there at this pace. So back on over to the crime city though. I was asking you, what do you think is all gonna happen here? And it seems like a full-on standoff for all sides, and it might have even ultimately ended in this team retreating back into the vault here, given that Chample has more mats somehow than there was when we first tuned in. So very interesting development here, but I'm not a fan of it.
Nah, I'm not a fan either, because it almost puts you in a situation, if you're Quiz, Wager, and Danger, if you do not win this fight, if you do not get the resources from taking down Champo, Beast, and Cosmo, you're in a terrible situation, because you're in zone, almost the center. More and more teams will begin to rotate in this direction, especially because there's not only the mountain, but the black market just north. So you really got to start to formulate a plan B if this does not work out, as a Thermite finds his way through, reveals their position, and now they know they're just waiting outside the vault.
Yeah, if there was a question, a doubt, there's no doubt anymore. And it's not just like waiting this out and you know, being set back for the mid game. It's also the damage. The rest of the lobby is continuously being active right here. This team, given that they've been so passive, they're not, you know, really fishing for enough tags on one another either. So it's something to take into account here.
So if you're the team in the vault, do you at any point try and break out, or are you just at the mercy of Danger, Chris, and Wagers? Because it does come with its own risk. There's only one way in, one way out, especially if they have all the surrounding control on that side of the map. So it's just honestly an interesting decision to see how this plays out.
I was gonna say, you would think that given enough time, the team outside the vault should just give it up, right? It's inevitable. However, you don't want to just leave it up to chance either. So yeah, I think they have to do something desperate. Gotta fight for it, if you will.
Shiny Shafts, just a couple of teams floating, rotating nearby. There's a lot of extra heals in terms of bandages. They have the water sprite. If they can find a shrine, they can kind of refresh it as well. So not too worried for them in this position, as long as they're farming up and getting some of that resource that they do lack, which is going to be metal, which Shiny Shafts does have a lot of. So you're kind of seeing their game plan in motion. Just outside of that, Cooper, Reet, Curly making their way in towards the zone, but they just want to heal up as well. Why use any of the med kits, the smokes, when there's this perfectly good fire pit down below?
Stoke the flames, and this is what we talked about. They're going to be able to play things a lot differently given how many eliminations they picked up. You won't see this very often from trios playing late into the storm like this, utilizing the campfires in the vicinity, and then playing for a full dead side rotate. Whole team has kneecappers, chug splash just to work with. This is just, again, a masterful rotate here and a wonderful setup for game 2. It's not something you can bank on either, right? This is just how you play it when the cards have been dealt to you in this way. Finding that many eliminations so early have given them the chance to do just that. You have to respect it. On the other side, there's a team that has to try to set themselves up for a little bit of vision here on the map. Brutal Zulpix. Go early to the party here outside the Foxy Floodgate. And remember, all those teams from the Seaport City, there was about 5 or 6 we saw in that general area. They're going to be some of the few that are going to start to rotate in here shortly.
And this is where it starts to get a little dangerous with some of those rotations. You see where the zone is pulling, and look at the outside land. There's so many different mountain ranges that teams will have to cross through, and there's already teams set up to get surged from those positions. So it's really going to funnel certain teams in certain areas, unless she went ahead and took that slower approach like we saw Reet and his trio do to take the slow side with those eliminations. And this is an example of just that. Teeks back, and Scuffy's going to have to rotate essentially directly into some form of team. Liquid's going to be the one right above, so it's not even that trio that I'm worried about. It's the two towards the outside that they're going to have to fight, eventually running into, as one's already down. KSM taking a big shot. Liquid trying to stay alive, using the Water Sprite as a solo, and he's trying to go ahead and get the advantage on the Scuffies to buy his teammates some time, alleviate some of that pressure so they can find some freedom.
I was wondering what in the world made it so that Texas team decided that they wanted to take that fight. I mean, they had the advantage, they had the damage, but maybe they just knew that they were a man up on the trio. And you can see that it was not worth the even small engagement there. It cost them a fair bit, and now also the attention of the teams that have pulled the zone further and first across the waterways. So they're just asking for trouble now, and they're both in a pretty much dire situation here to rotate out. It's going to cost them even more mats. KSM, Liquid here, watching Tex team go off to the left here. Definitely the better decision. I wouldn't doubt if KSM trio just says, you know what, we got to follow them.
I'm speechless.
Oh my gosh.
I'm honestly, I'm trying to think about what to say in a moment like this. This was your worry, the lack of surge. 420 below that damage threshold and counting, and you see they're still hiding outside of that vault. They're 300 damage, which means they've had at least one player. 2 of them were camping the vault. One player was constantly moving around Crime City, constantly looking for little opportunities at damage, and now you're seeing the huge difference it makes. Active surge on the other side. Eventually, whether a fight happens or not, Monster, I fear they're going to go down, and all that loot, regardless, is going to go over to Chris Danger and Wager.
This is funny though. Look at look at this storm too. It's pulling mad south, right? Like, so even the team outside is like, hey, we're just gonna wait for them. Like, we're not gonna rotate. We're just gonna chill here. And it seems like Cosmo, Thug, and Champa are like, you know what? We're good. We'd rather lose. We'd rather fall to the storm surge than give our loot to Chris's trio. And Chris, they see and they recognize, hey, we still have a chance here. Let's just go ahead and move. So clearly you can see who the real winners of this whole situation is. But at the end, Champo's team has no idea that they left. So there you have it.
I'm just kind of waiting for the feed, just because eventually that storm surge is going to catch up. And they're waiting for a moment where it deactivates into the next phase, but it's just a tough situation. I hopefully a learning lesson for them. It is going to be 3 games left if they don't survive, so they can kind of pick things back up and really try to reassess the situation. Dash goes down. Oh no! Hopefully nobody's clipping that one. I might see that on social media later.
Wait, we were just talking about House of Cells. That one's making the cut. Congrats, Rodin Dash. Very nicely played for him. Medmiss is going to come out here. I'm wondering if X on site is going to decide to jump on this team now. They saw the Medmiss come out. That's going to be a surefire sign for them.
Yeah, and even when they
9
find their way
damage
in towards zone,
for
yeah,
Vigor's
that's
trio, by the way.
exactly what I was going to say. Even when they find themselves in zone, it's not going to get easier at all. No resources, active surge, 15 below. Only one team at sight that's fully built up already. So spraying over in that direction is not going to be too useful, but they find it on the liquid anyway.
Ooh,
the reboot comes in, and they're charging over. They have no other... No! Storm Surge saves him in that second. It is up to Seek, all or nothing, 1v1, and he is on the clock. He gets above Surge. He gets the elimination. It's actually goes over to Aoxy, but he gets the loot or whatever's left of it. What is this game?
Work. You just can't make this up, right? Like what you're watching right now, it just happens. Sometimes it just happens that way. Seek's got the reboot card. Well, actually, I don't even know if he can even play for anything else. Given the Surge, of course, took the elimination there. So nonetheless, tough situation for that trio. We'll see what they can end up doing here. Back on over to the safe side of the zone. Much more calm situation going on here. Jargu, Silicon, King have themselves a nice clean position here. After a strong game one, Sherman, we'll be keeping eyes on them to see if they're going to be one of those high ground teams that come up and out of nowhere. Diego, Ralphie, and Fred, though, better game performance so far. They've made it a little bit further. However, does seem like Diego is getting active right here on a unsuspecting trio right here. They thought they were going to go in and find their finish onto Ralphie, but not on Diego's watch. And then the pickup comes through. Do they have a med miss is the real question. Oh, the enemy team does, though. Go ahead and get a little bit of that. That's going to probably save them ultimately in the end right here.
Slows down the revive. Fred goes down. That brings it down to a 2v2. The bats come out. He is swinging for the fences. Diego, he's going to get trapped and down altogether. That might not have been a home run, Monster, but that was at least a double or a triple. He is safe.
No, Azuri's going crazy. He didn't even charge it up, by the way. That was just base damage, pinging them left and right there. And then the clutch shot with the shotgun. You never saw it coming. Gold Rush effect is going to keep him in the game here to go in and make this rotate now. And my gosh, what a game we are watching. There is chaos unfolding everywhere here and now. Another med miss comes through. And you know what? I genuinely thought that med miss from Missouri the first time was going to save Diego's trio.
Thought it was. This is the other side. Oh, that was the beauty right there. That shot on the Fred turned things around. And instead of just going for the elim, he just broke out the Louisville Slugger and just started teeing off. Diego got hit with the edge. He turns around, takes down the last one, and he realized instantly, just like in game one, we saw a team, Diego probably in the black market trying to be a hero. He knew, I cannot save my teammate, and immediately beelined it to zone.
This game's hilarious. It all started with the Volt, you know, the pace was set for us, the story was set. Let's see what the end game has for us now. Take a look at this though. Some more serious things. Pollo, Agers, Acorn finding their refreshes, finding their big pickups here. This is a mountain end game, so we already know we're going to be in for a crazy one here.
Team 538. They're just looking around right now. This is one of those teams that take a slower approach to these games. Let the eliminations come to them as Pollo just finds another one, the second one of the game. Just barely peeking outside as Acorn peeking to the cone. Information vital for him. The IGL really leading the charge for the team. We know how clutch he can be because it was last major. He's put in a 1v1 situation where if he would have lost that, there goes the Major 1 championship as Pollo tees off, sending his team towards the zone. So that way they can find a good spot on this rotation.
Like it. Gotta find those elims just like that. Big points, big pickups. Look at Curly's trio. Nice wide skirt rotation on the outsert. Day, Clover, Alo get the high ground position first. Up and over. Wait a second. That low ground team didn't even see them kind of swing around. They let their guard down for a brief moment there. And Day's trio's all of a sudden securing up the high ground here.
Yeah, luckily for him, he was kind of a little slower than the rest of his teammates. He was able to spot Reet and their trio just starting to sneak up the other side of the zone. Acorn, Agers, Pollo looking like they were just in a rough situation here. But Acorn having another elimination, which means they were able to kind of fend him off. Not only get that, but get all the loot. Kind of get the option to pick and choose exactly what they want before they make their way up that side of the mountain with the rest of the lobby. Currently, Monster, there's only 2 teams in the zone as of now.
Yeah, you can't be caught in the zone. The replay is just highlighting Acorn, Agers, and Pollo continuously finding their moments. seems like we jump away, watch something play out, and the Acorns team's just making a big play for themselves here. Meanwhile, Noah Plays team, take a look at this. A great showing here in game 2. This is because they switched up that drop spot, and luckily they did, right? You saw 4 teams at the Seaport City. Now that Kanata's trio has qualified out of the Hopeful Heights, they have that entire kind of southern area free of charge to themselves here, and they're making great work of it.
This is almost a feeling of deja vu here for Reek, Curly, and Coop. We didn't see a ton of them in game 1, but they were just kind of flying under the radar, taking space when they needed to, and get some good damage onto a full trio towards the side. They look down, there's more battles going on underneath, and Curly continues